Yo, what is going on, everybody? Today we're going to be looking at the Tartaglia banner and deciding whether or not it is worth pulling on for various characters or if you should skip and save. So as most of you know, this is a rerun banner. When the first Childe banner was around, everyone was super excited for this character. He had a super unique playstyle, he looked super cool, and he was kind of a husbando. So he has a pretty decent reputation. His damage output is fairly good too. Overall, a very solid unit, and everyone was super excited to get their hands on him. Childe is the first primarily DPS Hydro character. Obviously, arguments can be made for DPS Barbara and Jingcho, I know that, but this is the first character that was introduced into the game who didn't have some sort of healing capability and had their focus be on raw damage output. Sorry, when I say first character, I mean Hydro character. Part of the reason Tartaglia is such a solid unit is because of his Q scaling. His Q scaling allows him to be a huge damage burst DPS, because at level 6 talent, he has 649% on his multiplier for his melee Q and 529% on his ranged Q. He performs the functions of a main, sub, and burst DPS very well. Outside of Tartaglia on this banner, we have Barbara, who I'm sure you all have C6 even if you're free to play. And if you don't have her C6 and you're free to play, don't worry, you'll get C6 Barbara soon enough because she shows up fucking everywhere when you don't want to see her. We've also seen a lot of Fischl, but Fischl is a very strong support unit and a DPS unit depending on how you decide to build her. She is a really good pickup, and if you don't have her C6, her constellations are definitely worth getting. As for Rosaria, I can't talk about leaks, but you can see a little bit of her gameplay animations if you go to the miHoYo website, which I'll be showing on screen now. In my honest opinion, I'm not really that interested in Rosaria, mostly because I have so many other units that I'm kind of comfortable with that I have built up, but I can see why a lot of people would be interested in Rosaria, so a lot of people are thinking about pulling on the Childe banner specifically for her. I can't really say whether or not that's a good move, but if you want her, and you might as well roll for her. Looking at just the previews we see of her, it does look like she's going to be more focused around DPS, but her kit could totally be a support kit. We just don't know anything about it without using leaks, and I can't talk about those. That's a basic overview of the banner. We can talk about now whether or not it's actually worth pulling on though, and this is going to be mostly my opinion, but trying to approach it from multiple different angles. If you are a new player to Genshin Impact, this banner is really great for you. It has some great units in it. Barbara's not super ideal, but Rosaria is a new unit. She looks pretty cool, and then Tartaglia also is very strong. Fischl pairs extremely well with Tartaglia as well, so as a new player who may not have these characters or are missing constellations for these characters, the banner's great. However, if you are a player that's been around since the beginning or since the initial Childe banner, you're going to see this banner as kind of bad, I think, unless you're free to play and haven't pulled a lot of these characters. But to be completely honest, even a lot of the free to play players I know already have really high constellation Fischl and Barbara. So if we're just looking at the 4-star value, then Rosaria might be the only character that you're really interested in pulling for if you have been around from the start. So that's the boat I'm in. I already have Tartaglia, I have C6 Fischl, C6 Barbara. The only new character that I'd be interested in getting is Rosaria, and the problem with that, it's a 1 in 3 chance when you do actually hit the event character. So I'd rather wait personally until we see Rosaria on a banner with other characters that I don't have C6, so that way I have a chance at getting other characters as well. And I think if you're in a similar place, you should make the same decision. It's just a more optimal investment to go ahead and wait until you have more characters you actually want. And if you have the 50-50 ready and you're not trying to get Tartaglia, obviously you shouldn't pull at all. I know too many people that wanted to get one Bennett and accidentally ruin their 50-50 on the Kuching banner. It's really not worth it. You just gotta wait if you're not trying to get Tartaglia. It is the easiest free-to-play mistake to make in the entire game. Just don't pull if you have the guarantee and you don't want that character. If you are pulling for Tartaglia, let me give you some food for thought. As mentioned earlier in the video, Tartaglia is a very powerful DPS unit, and he definitely has more of a unique playstyle. If you asked me though, in 2021, if you should pull on Tartaglia, I'd say no. And again, this is just my opinion, so take it with a grain of salt, but I think with the way that 5 stars are going, Tartaglia eventually is going to fall out of the list of best 5 stars, and therefore wouldn't be worth pulling for unless you just like the playstyle of him. This statement actually significantly increases in value if you're free to play, because you have to consider that power creep is a very real thing. When Tartaglia was initially released, he was insanely strong, and to be honest, he's still very good. He's still a very solid unit, but you'll notice that a ton of players just completely forgot that Tartaglia existed as soon as Ganyu came out. And then people forgot about Ganyu when Xiao came out, and people forgot about Xiao when Hu Tao came out. And I'm not saying Xiao and Hu Tao are better than Ganyu or anything like that. I'm not arguing that these units are better than each other, but we can agree that all of these units do actually outclass Tartaglia in damage per investment. I'm not talking about elemental burst, but I'm talking about main DPS capability, because obviously Tartaglia's elemental burst still allows you to hit absurdly high numbers with vaporize and all of that stuff. That is one advantage that he has over characters like Xiao. This is a trend that's going to continue as the game sees a longer lifespan. Newer characters are going to come out and outclass old characters, because if they don't outclass old characters, the community gets upset, and of course, as miHoYo wants to make content more difficult, they have to make characters that are able to hit higher skill ceilings. And maybe not even just skill ceilings, but damage ceilings. We may not have it for a little while, but imagine if they added another 3 floors to Abyss and then up the level cap of certain characters while keeping artifacts the same way they are. At that point, you have to look towards a character's talents and base stats, right? But not only that, we have seen a trend with power creep, and it's just the way that the game goes. Eventually, the game is going to get crept to all hell, and then Tartaglia, though he will be a strong unit, probably won't be as strong as the other characters you could save for and pull for. And the only reason I'm bringing up this argument is because we've seen it. I would not be talking about this if we hadn't seen power creep happen, but we have. And just because more people can now clear Spiral Abyss doesn't mean that Spiral Abyss hasn't gotten harder either. A lot of people are still really struggling with 12. Most people that I know that have followed build guides and built stronger units haven't had any trouble with Abyss 12, but I've rarely seen anyone use Tartaglia there. I've seen a lot more people use Ganyu, Hu Tao, and Xiao. And before one of you guys mauls in the comments about, okay, but X YouTuber or X Twitch streamer did this, I don't give a fuck. I'm just saying what I've seen, and this is my personal opinion on the whole banner. For those of you thinking about going into constellations for Tartaglia, I do not think it is worth the money. Unless you're running like a whale account and you have money to just blow on these characters, I think that his constellations are just not worth the value for the cost. Specifically, those of you who are going for Constellation 1 for more uptime, it decreases the Raging Tide cooldown by 20%, which is like a pretty sizable decrease in cooldown time. I still think it's kind of bad though. The reason you run multiple DPS is so that when a character has cooldowns like this, you can switch to another DPS and keep outputting damage, and I think that Tartaglia's whole thing is that one of two things happens, right? You're either not in Abyss and you end the fight before the cooldown is up, or you're in Spiral Abyss and you just swap to your secondary DPS when you run out of time. As I've said before, he's a really strong unit, but I don't think I've ever had to use his cooldown more than twice per Abyss floor. And if the cooldown reduction from C1 was like 50%, I think it would be worth going for because that's a pretty substantial amount, but 20% is just so little that I feel like it's negligible. Constellation 2 is about energy recharge, but I feel like I've never had any problems with energy recharge on Tartaglia either, and I'm sure a lot of you haven't. Sometimes my Q is up before I even have the ability to use it again just because of how many elemental particles you generate. Constellation 3 and 5 or whatever. Constellation 4 is pretty good, and Constellation 6 allows him to have 100% uptime, but I think on a 5-star unit, needing C6 to have him be able to compete with all of the other 5-star units that are coming out recently is really, really tough. So again, he's a really, really strong unit, and he's a lot better than so many characters in the game, but I think if you're being stingy with your wishes and you're trying to make sure you don't have to spend any money, or if you're a free-to-play player, I would avoid going for this character if you're just looking for the strongest unit to pull on, especially because we anticipate a Zhongli banner will be coming around, and he's like got such great support capability and damage capability while being a support, and that's another character we already know about. Think of all the unreleased characters that are going to come out this year, especially when other anime games start entering the market. MiHoYo realizes, oh shit, we have to step up our game, so they start putting out more characters and more content at super fast rates to keep players involved. All I'm saying is that we don't know what's on the horizon, and I feel like Tartaglia, while he's a super good unit, isn't necessarily the best bang for your buck. But what do I know? I'm just a Gene main. Anyways, these are just my opinions. To reiterate, if you're thinking about pulling on this banner and you have guaranteed 50-50, it's not worth pulling for Rosaria and risking getting that 50-50 if you want to save for another character in the future. Just don't do it. Wait till she goes into the normal banner, and then wait like maybe 2 months or so, and Rosaria's going to go into the shop anyways. We'll see more opportunities to get her outside of this banner, and she'll also come back on other characters eventually too. MiHoYo knew what they were doing when they put Rosaria on the Tartaglia banner. They wanted everyone to roll in that banner so that if they release a new character or a rerun next month that everyone wants to see, you won't have any wishes for it and you'll have to spend money. It's just business. That's what they're doing. Obviously, if you want the hot nun though, like whatever, I get it.